Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Krystal Sodaitis, and I'm really excited to have Jeff with me today. And Jeff is going to talk about his Amawaterways river cruise. So, Jeff, I will pass it to you to tell the audience all about you.
Hello. So I've been a travel agent for about 6 years. Started in April of 2019. So, one of the best times to get started doing this. Um, Originally, we've been doing group trips for our friends since like 2004. And so about 2018, we did our first river cruise with Amawaterways on the Douro River. And there was 18 of us on the ship that I was organizing without being a travel agent technically. So then the person I was working with, gave me lots of hints and details and this and that. And so at some point, I'm like, once I retired, I can, maybe get into this and figure, how to make a little bit of money in retirement just for fun.
And,
So
and is
six
that what you did? Did you retire in 2018? And
in 2019, yeah, and
yeah,
about April,
yeah, wow. And so this is now your retirement gig.
yes.
Amazing. So on this Waterways, tell us, which ship did you go on?
So we started on the Amaduro. So Alma only had one ship on the Douro back in 18. I believe they have two now.
Okay.
And it's a smaller ship because the locks and yeah, they have to fit the ship in the locks. So it's only about 108 people on that ship.
Wow. And now you just came back from a river cruise, didn't you?
We did. We just did the Danube River from Vilshofen to Budapest. It was a wine cruise that turns out a friend of ours was the winemaker on the ship. She was supposed to do it in 2020, and we all know what happened then. And so we were out in wine country last year, and she said she was the winemaker on this cruise. So we're like, well, that sounds like fun. We can get on board with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So which ship was that?
It was the Amabella.
Okay. So Amabella, Danube River cruise, a special winemaking cruise.
Yes,
So that's why you chose this particular ship in itinerary.
correct. Now,
Oh,
we had just done the Christmas market cruise on the Danube back in November of 24. So we're kind of like, we're doing the Danube. Well, actually, it's the third time we've done the Danube because we actually did the Alma Magna back in July of 2021.
so
But amazingly, all three were totally different, even though you're on the same river.
yeah, that's amazing. So, and we're all three on Alma Waterways.
Yes. We have
Are
only done
you
Alma
basically like an
Waterways.
Alma Waterways expert or aficionado?
So the real backstory is when I was organizing this trip for my wife for her 50th birthday and another friend, it was down between Alma Waterways and Viking. And all of our friends, the people that went on the cruise, basically had a week. Viking was kind of making us do the pre cruise, which made it a 10-day trip versus a 7-day trip. And Alma said, well, pre and post is optional. You don't have to do it. So I'm like, great, we can just do the cruise. So that kind of got me liking Alma a little bit more than Viking. Um, so then in 2019, I was able to get on a fam trip on the Rhine on Alma on like a travel agent deal. Um, and so we really liked it. And so kind of like now it's just like, okay, we just like Alma now. So
Yeah.
we've just done them ever since. Now, I'm not saying I won't do other ones, but so far it's been only Alma.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Well, we will definitely pick your brain about all things Alma. So tell us about the ship, the Alma Bella, which is the last one that you went on. Tell us about that ship.
So I think it was built in about 2010, and I guess it went through some retrofit in 21 during COVID. Um, we noticed in the lounge it was a little bit different, that it had, I think, bigger windows and just more lighting than like the other ships we had been on. But for the most part, they're all pretty similar. Um, they have the deck on top, which has the big walking track. They have a small pool that I wouldn't really say it's a hot tub, but it's a big pool just for like soaking and stuff. And then pretty much except for the Alma Magna and the Nile and the Danube, all the ships are probably 98% the same. Um,
Got it. And the interior, is it modern? Is it more contemporary or traditional?
it's probably contemporary, I would say. It's nothing over the top. I've seen some pictures on Uniworld, and their decorations are like baroque, over the top kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've been docked alongside of Viking and Avalon, and you can kind of tell from some of their outside furniture the status of some of their stuff. Everything was probably just lovely. Nothing was too crazy. The beds are really nice. The staterooms are big. I mean, obviously, the E and the D cabins on the bottom with the windows aren't as big, but the suites definitely have a lot of room.
Yeah. So what cabin category did you stay in?
So we've been pretty much in most of the suites because my wife likes them. So for her 50th birthday, I'm like, well, we'll get the suite on the cruise ship on the Amaduro, and there's only two of them in the back. So since we had 9 cabins, I wanted both of them. So other friends of ours were in the other cabin, and it was nice. But again, because that ship is a little bit smaller, those cabins were a hair smaller. And then we did a suite on the Ama Magna, which was very nice. And then I think we've upgraded the last couple times into the suites.
Yeah. And so this Almabea suite, tell us about it in terms of, you may not know the square footage, but what was the layout of the suite like?
I think it was like 250 square feet. So what's interesting about there's like one cabin in the suites that doesn't have a bathtub in it, and when we're on the Amasanada, we got that one, which makes the bathroom a little bit bigger because I just don't understand the bathtubs on some of these ships. Um, and so you can kind of look to see it's an odd shaped room. Like there's like you can kind of see on the deck maps. There's just a little cutout of something which I haven't figured out what it is yet.
Just trying to
They
fit it in somehow. Like they
somehow
needed an extra broom closet, so they just took it out of the suite.
something, yeah. And so, but they take the tub out, which is great. You can just walk into the shower. The bathrooms are generally pretty big. They have lovely amenities. My wife says they always have a conditioner, which some ships just have
Yeah.
the 2-in-1 kind of thing. They have the desk and the computer, which I rarely ever turn on. We rarely ever turn on the TV, except kind of like to see where we are and the weather and that kind of stuff. My wife likes balconies. So they generally have the balconies have like the 2 chairs and the table. But the suite on the Ama Magna has like a chase lounge. So she was able to like kind of lay out
Yeah.
on that one.
Is that pretty standard size for a suite on a river ship? Because, if it's just enough to fit a chair and a desk in the middle, that seems equivalent to a regular balcony stateroom on an
Right.
ocean ship.
Yeah. I agree. The suites are a little bit bigger, and people will say, "Is it worth it? Is it not worth it?" Generally, we like the bigger room just to be able to move around. We don't spend a ton of time in the room, but just um, we like having the space.
Yeah. One thing about a river ship and a river cruise is, you're not on some of these giant mega ships that have tons of
Yeah.
shows and 3 different venues for whether you want the guitarist, the piano player, or the dueling piano player, or the karaoke. Like, that's not what these cruise ships typically offer. For many people, having a larger room, because you are going to spend relatively more time in that room than you would on an ocean liner. So maybe it's comfortable. You want to have a little bit more room, more than just being
Yeah.
having to shimmy between the bed and the desk.
I'm a travel agent. I kind of work not all the time, but I got to bring my computer. I need a desk to work at. Up until last year, my wife was working. So, you kind of need some room to do some of that kind of stuff. The suites definitely have a little bit bigger desk and a little bit bigger area for both of us to get work
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, and so many people do that now, is they take like, it's not quite a working vacation, but they work while they travel.
Right.
And so how did you find then the Wi-Fi?
It was pretty good. So we are from university. We went to the University of Houston, and our team was in the NCAA finals this year. So we were actually streaming the games at 3:30 in the morning pretty
Wow.
well. Um, there was a little
That's
bit of
good
buffering,
Wi-Fi.
but it was also 3:30 in the morning, so not everybody else was on it. To
True.
be fair, but yeah, it worked pretty well. So I think a lot of the ships, I know the bigger ships all have Starlink now. I think they're all kind of like going to some form like that. Um,
Yeah. And I wonder too on these river ships because, you know, you're not in the middle of the ocean.
right,
Often you are docked in a big city. So you could potentially even, like, I know I could probably tether my phone as the Wi Fi hotspot to
right,
my computer as long as I've got a decent cell signal. And, my cellular provider, I can have free data like in almost every country in the world. Like, I haven't been to a country yet that it says, no, you can't have data here. So, you know, I think that if you're in a larger city, then ideally the cell signal would be strong enough to be able to tether your computer. But the thing about river cruises is that in between those large cities, sometimes like you're really in the middle of nowhere. It's like driving through rural America.
right.
And
Yeah,
so that cell signal may not be as strong. And so it's important for the river cruise ships to also have, decent Wi-Fi.
100% agree.
Amazing.
Um,
So, did any other amenities come with the suite?
you get free laundry, which is a bonus because a lot of times we're going a couple days before and staying after. It lets us just do carry on. We've had luggage delayed and this and that and other trips. Um, it just lets you pack a little bit lighter. They bring you, fresh fruit every day. Well, the good thing about Ama is everyone gets like all the men get like a ball cap, and the women get like these really pretty scarves. And every year it's like a different color. So if you cruise with them enough, you get a whole collection of them.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. And is that just for suites or is that for everybody?
I think that's for everybody.
Nice. What else, either in the suite or in a different class of cabin, what else is included in your cruise fare? Because one of the benefits of river cruising is there's much more included, many more complimentary benefits than on some of the contemporary lines.
So on Amawaterways, 98% of the excursions are all included. Now, the one we just did, there was an outing to a Mozart concert in Vienna that was like $100 a person. I mean, it wasn't that bad. And when we went to Egypt, we went to Abu Simbel, and that was like $350, which was the tour plus the airfare to get there. But everything else was included. You don't
Mhm.
have to decide what excursion to do based on the price. I mean, you can decide that morning if you don't want to do something or the other. I like that Amawaterways has the bikes. I've done a lot of the bike rides along the Danube and the Rhine. They don't have them in Portugal because you're down in the valley and you just
Mhm.
can't. They just can't use them on the Douro, and they don't have them on the Nile either because the ships are too small. But other than that, they have bikes. They have really nice buses to take you into town or to go, to Chesky Kremlov or to Salzburg on the Danube. But yeah, it's and that they obviously include beer and wine at at lunch and dinner, and if you get something outside of that, the prices are $7-8 for a drink, so
Yeah,
it's not bad at
reasonable.
all.
Yeah.
Um, I did like that the Bella Amabella has a water station that will put the little chunks of ice. So I have a water bottle, and so you fill it with ice and water, and then you don't have to take the water off the ship or that kind of thing, or you just have a larger amount of water.
Yeah. That's really nice. Do they, being in Europe, do you have the option of still or
Yeah, bubble, but gas or no gas. Yeah, they're offer that at lunch and dinner if you want sparkling water or just regular.
yeah.
Um,
I've seen that too in some airport lounges where they have the water dispenser where you can choose to have still or sparkling water filled into your glass. So I didn't know if since it was Europe you had that option.
and I really like the fact that you could just put ice in your bottle right there instead of having to go down to the bar and get the ice from the bartender and that kind
Tell us about the dining options.
of. So for every other cruise except for the Alma Magna, because the Magna has like 3 or 4 restaurants. There's basically one restaurant, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's all pretty much a set time for like 2 hours between like 7 to 9, 7:30, 9:30. Um, lunch is like noon to 2, and dinner's like 5:30 or 6 to whenever. It's one big dining room. There's enough room for everyone. They also have a chef's table and a captain's table, kind of separate. Um, and so I've never been on a cruise that was 100% full, where finding dining space was ever a problem. But they have enough space for everyone.
Is it open seating or did you have to have a reservation?
It's open seating. And
And
like everything else, you kind of like find a spot to sit in. And when you meet people on the ship, you end up maybe sitting with them, or sometimes there's other bigger groups, and they kind of like take up the big tables. Which there's only 2 of you. There's plenty of like 2 and 4 tops and that kind of thing.
yeah,
And we have no problem sitting, like filling a table of 8 if needed. I think it's more fun to meet people that way.
absolutely. Joining a table, sitting and inviting people over. It's one of the things we love about cruising is meeting other people that also enjoy cruising and having the opportunity, a week straight or, however long straight of just being able to talk about cruising. That's kind of like, I'm into it. Sign me up.
And that's the beauty of these ships, is there's less than 200 people. You're going to see these people all week long. You know,
Yeah.
you're on a tour together. You're eating next to them up in the lounge. That kind of thing. Also has like a sip and sail, kind of like a happy hour where you get some drinks, and the cruise director goes over what's happening that night or the next day. That kind of thing. Um,
I assume these are cocktails. Is that also included in your cruise fare? Or those
no, it's included. And it's
amazing?
it's like it's not like every cocktail, but it's like they'll have the drink of the day kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they generally have beer on tap that's always free when it's lunch, dinner, sip and sail. It's usually a German lager. Nothing horribly exciting. But the beauty of the river cruises is, let's just say you go into port and you go to a brewery, you can buy their beer and bring it on board. Or if you go to a winery, you can bring it on
Yeah.
board. They really don't care, because it's all included. It's not like the demographics are like a Caribbean Carnival cruise where everyone's like booze cruising and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're not looking that it's going to impact their bottom line to have people bring alcohol on board. It's like,
Correct.
nope. You pay the
Like
same price whether you drink our alcohol or your alcohol. The same price.
we went to a distillery outside of Vienna, and I bought a couple small bottles. And what's funny, like they have it on the ship, but if they didn't have that particular brand, they wouldn't have cared if you poured it in a glass and went to the lounge
Yeah.
and that kind
That's really nice. So they have a chef's table experience and what was the other one that you said?
of. Captain's table,
Captain's table. And are those included as well?
yes.
Very nice.
And I don't know how they decide who gets to go to chef's table half the time. Um, we got to go on the last one because we were with the winemaker group, and they had 2 nights of the chef's table, and it was lovely. It took like 4 hours. I mean, it was amazing. And we did get to do the captain's table as well. Um,
What's the difference between chef's table and captain's table?
so captain's table really is just, you're just eating with the captain and like maybe like the cruise director and the hotel manager. It's the same food in the dining room. You just get to go talk to the captain. The chef's table is, the chef does all kinds of different all different food that's not in the main dining room.
Yeah, that's more like a typical chef's table experience where the chef comes out and explains to you and, this very intricate, tiny little, usually small plates. You get like 3 bites, but it's, 10 courses. So by the end, you're still stuffed to the gills. And of course,
And
the appropriate wine pairing.
right. And so on the wine cruise we just did, it was all the wines that she had brought on, which is even more interesting because she was supposed to do it during COVID. She literally had cases of wine that sat in Ama's warehouse for 5 years, still under the conditions.
Yeah,
And so she was able to do some verticals of some of the wine that she brought on that was some of the last couple of years vintages. So people were kind of happy about
interesting.
that.
Yeah, you could taste like the progression of that particular
Yeah.
wine. Wow, that sounds really interesting. That sounds like fun.
I mean, my
Well, that
wife
was,
is the big wine person. I'm not hugely into wine, but I can, I'll
yeah.
drink it and I like it. But she was the one that was going, comparing Cabernets and the Chardonnays and all that.
Yeah. What was the with only like 100, you think you said like 160 or 200 people on board, what was the like crew to passenger ratio like?
They say it's there's crew that like you really never see, like the engineers and the people kind of like working the docks and that kind of thing. But it's like you have your cabin steward, and there's um, you've got the fitness person, and it's 2 to 1 maybe. I mean, got the dining room staff and the cleaning staff, so it's there wasn't anything you couldn't find or find someone you couldn't find quickly. Um,
Yeah, all your needs were met.
exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, so tell us what stands out for you from sort of like a luxury and service aspect. Where do you think Alma really shines?
I think based on a lot of things that I haven't we don't use a ton of the service, like like hotels have a concierge. We don't use the concierge that much. But they will do anything that you need. If you need taxis to the airport, they'll set them up for you. If you need, you know, something in town, they'll show you where to go, or they'll call ahead. I know that like people have said they've gotten into accidents, and like the AMA crew were like, they'll almost go visit you almost every day if they can. Um, but they have everything, just they can get everything done that needs to get done. Um, when I was doing the Duro cruise, I had a dinner set up at a restaurant nearby because there was 28 of us actually in town, but only 18 of us were going on the cruise. And I had an issue with the restaurant and like trying to get the bank to do something. Like the cruise director, like I was emailing with him, and then when we were on board, he actually went to the bank with me to speak Portuguese to the bank people. I
Wow,
mean,
yeah. That's really
so that's
helpful.
just
That is service, right? Like going above and beyond. That's not in your job
exactly
description. That's not in
right.
anybody's cruise director job description.
And when we were on the Nile on the Egypt cruise, what happens is everyone gets assigned a Egyptologist, and so you're kind of like everybody has their own color for the week. You're the blue bus, you're the orange bus, and that Egyptologist stays with you the whole week. So you're not having to like repeat questions and this and that, and they
Yeah.
just have the full flow of knowledge, um, teaching you things every day.
Yeah, I love
And
that. And then like if they know that, for example, you are, a pyramids buff, they'll specifically, point things out around that specific interest.
yeah,
That's really interesting. That's a very nice touch that you're almost like your own little teacher throughout the school year. And they
exactly.
get to know you and they know what your likes are and they know what the group's general interest is and they know the rhythm. They know the person who always asks questions and doesn't allow anybody else to ask questions. And so,
we didn't have much of that, but I mean, hey, after a week of like seeing hieroglyphics, you're like, okay, it's another hieroglyphic, but
yeah, yeah. Wow. So, stepping away from this cruise, what is your definition of luxury?
so to me, it's a lot of not being nickel and dimed on a lot of things. Like it's almost like the all inclusive model, which my wife likes. It's just like, here's the price. Just don't charge me for a soda. Don't charge me for little things. Have nice amenities. Have decent food, that kind of thing. Nice, decent buses for the excursions. I mean, I've never been on a non decent bus on tour groups or that kind of thing. I know that when you fly in a certain time, the transfers will be there to pick you up and that kind of thing. When you drop your luggage off, it'll be in your room soon. You don't have to think about that kind of stuff. Basically, if you need anything, they'll just make it happen. So,
It sounds like for you, luxury is not having to worry about the little nitpicky details that can really make or break your cruise. Like you never expect the transfer bus to be nasty and gross, but then sometimes it is, right? And
yeah.
on a luxury cruise, it's never nasty and gross.
And all the bus drivers are really nice. And, they always have great tour guides for whatever tour you're doing that day.
Yeah. Did this cruise meet your expectation?
Yes. Um, the one that probably exceeded our expectation was probably the Alma Magna, mainly because it was literally the first river cruise to start back up after COVID. Um, so the owner was on board, making sure everything was going right. But I mean, like every town we came into, we were like the first English speaking tour group they'd had in 18 months.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
everybody was just kind of like going a little over the top, not like over the top, but I mean, everybody was just like,
Really excited. Yep.
really excited, you know.
Tell us what distinguishes, because you had said earlier that basically all of them are the same except for the Alma Magna. So, and you said this one has like 5 restaurants. What are some of the distinguishing features? What are some of the features that distinguish the Alma Magna from the other Alma ships?
So the Alma Magna is like twice as wide as the other ships. Um, and so the rooms are a little bit bigger. There's fewer people, but the rooms are bigger. Um, it has like a cafe up front, and it's got a couple other restaurants that are on board, not just the one restaurant. It was 2021, so I'm having memory issues of like just exactly what it was, but yeah, the rooms are bigger. It's twice as wide. It was pretty new at the time, so and there's only one of them. They have not built another one yet. It's only on the Danube because that's the only river that can hold it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's I full transparency, I got a travel agent rate on it, so it was a really good deal. Um, but it was it's one of the ones I wanted to do when I went after the Duro, and they're like, "Hey, go on the Alma Magna," and I'm like, "Well, shoot, why not?"
Yeah, absolutely.
The food was amazing. Um, so it's funny because the owner was on board, and he was talking about sort of getting rid of like the buffets because they used to kind of have like a breakfast buffet kind of thing. He wasn't thrilled with them. He'd rather have like service the whole time. But I think Alma is they're doing a little hybrid where you can kind of like go up and get some of your own food, but it's not really a buffet. But they'll make it for you. They have off the menu pancakes and waffles and that kind of thing. But it's not like a true buffet. But they have some stations where you can go up and get.
Yeah, I like that model. I like the model where, you can still sit down and order something, especially if you want something hot, like some eggs, an omelet, some pancakes, whatever. But then also you could walk up, and if you just wanted to get like some fresh fruit or some yogurt or whatever, cheese, you can also do that model.
Yeah.
What is your dream cruise?
Well, I've already been on one. We went to Antarctica last year, so that
Mm,
was amazing. It was on Scenic, and they are a ultra luxury cruise ship.
yeah,
They only have 226 people on the whole ship, and Antarctica is only 200 people or less. So there's a lot of staff to passenger ratio there. And we're going to Galapagos next year, so those are
yeah,
like my two right there.
yeah. Those are both also on my list. Are you
It
going
was
to the
amazing.
Galapagos on Scenic?
No, we're doing the Celebrity Flora.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's for my 60th birthday, so we
Yeah, you got to.
we have the penthouse suite and 24 people going. So I got 12 other cabins that are going. So we have like a quarter of the ship now.
Wow. Well, you'll have to definitely come back and tell us about the Galapagos on the Celebrity for sure.
It will be amazing.
I know it. And the Galapagos and the, what is it, the blue-footed boobies?
Yeah, basically, I turned 60 in December, but we're doing this in May because it's blue-footed booby mating season in May and June. So I'm like, that's when we're going.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course, of course. Fantastic. Well, Jeff, this has been so fun. You are a travel agent, so tell the listeners if they want to join you on your Galapagos Celebrity Cruise or any other cruise. How can they get in touch with
so the name of my company is Purple Lemming Travel, and there's some history to that, but basically my email is just purplelemmingtravel@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Purple Lemming Travel. Um, I don't do a ton of social media. I'll post some things, but I'm not like out there every single day doing that kind of
you? Yeah,
stuff. I do this more for fun than for a living. So 98% of my clients are friends and family and referrals. Um,
yeah. Well, good. Well, maybe we'll be friends and you
exactly.
can be friends.
There's still like 7 cabins available on the Galapagos, I think.
There you go. You heard it, y'all. if you want to go to the Galapagos in when did you?
We are leaving on it's May 25th, 2026.
Okay, so
So
just
it's the
about a year
Sunday,
from now,
the
if you're
Sunday
ready to
before
go to the
Memorial
Galapagos.
Weekend. So
Pardon?
it's the week of Memorial Day weekend. So that gives everyone everyone that's still working gives them the extra day off. So
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
we're going to fly in early, a few days early, and do probably the cloud forest in Quito, and do the city tour of Quito, and then fly to Baltra the day before the cruise. So it should be fun.
Well, there you go. If someone's interested, you know where to find them. Well, thank you again so much. And thanks to the audience for listening. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious travel.
Thank you.